everybody, welcome to Enliven Wellness. Super pumped to be here as always. I love making these videos for you all, and I love seeing my subscribers numbers going up and just interacting with people from around the world. So freaking cool. Okay, so the video I'm gonna make today is a little bit more about my story. I've had a couple of different viewers ask me, like, what's your story? And I've got one on my channel already, but I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth. So basically, what am I? Who am I? Well, I'm Tessa, and I live in Colorado. The very basics, I'm a student. I'm getting my master's in integrative medicine. I'm a certified personal trainer, yoga teacher, yoga fanatic, nutrition coach. I am a lot of things, and the point that I'm making with that is that all of us are a lot of things. And on a deeper level, what am I? Who am I? I'm a stag. So a stag represents regeneration. And I'm a freaking cockroach, y'all. And so are you. If you stumbled across this channel, chances are you might not be feeling so hot. And that makes me really I've been there, yo. I've been there. For 8 years, I was really, really sick. Guys, weird things were happening to me. Just weird things. I would have a panic attack every time I ate. I couldn't breathe most of the time. My anxiety was so off the charts, and that's why I chose the name Enliven. Because what does enliven mean? So enliven means to animate, to bring life to. And when you're feeling like crap, you kind of feel like a corpse just walking around, like a ghost, just walking around life and not even really being able to function or exist. And that's how I felt for years. I was not alive. I was not enlivened. That's why I started this channel, and that's why I named it Enliven Wellness. So, flashing back, let me go back a little bit. So, I believe that we all have a purpose in this life. And for me, I'm a messenger of wellness. And I've realized that actually just recently is this term just came into my head. Because whether or not you believe in a higher power, whatever, I'm not going to get into religious stuff on this channel. I'm a super spiritual person. I'm not religious. I'm spiritual, two different things. But I believe each of us have a purpose in this life. And mine is to be a messenger of wellness. And I've had this confirmed to me not only just from my heart, but from other teachers of mine, other mentors, that I'm on the right path by doing this health thing. And the reason why I know that I was meant to be a messenger of wellness is because I was thrust into the crippling depths of illness. And I believe that our greatest suffering reveals to us our path and our purpose, our true purpose. I really feel like our greatest suffering is what we can teach the world the most. Because if you choose to sit in your suffering, by all means do that. We all kind of have to do that. It wasn't until January this year that I realized that I was actually holding on to my sickness because it was serving a purpose. And I'll get into that later. But we can hold on to suffering because it's serving a purpose. But there comes a time where you can either choose to continue to suffer, and then chances are you're probably not watching this video, or you can make the choice to change. And I made the choice to change. I got sick of feeling like hell. And we've all heard that saying, I got sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. It's freaking true, guys. It's true. I finally was, there were multiple breakdowns that happened roughly 2 years ago when I was just I can't function like this anymore, and I cannot live life, and I can't deal with life anymore. I'm either going to die, and I'm going to either commit suicide, or I'm going to live. And I chose to live. And I really hope that by watching this video, you choose to live. Because you are here for a purpose. You're here for a purpose. I can't say that enough. You are here for a purpose. So, back. I have a lot of trauma in my background. So I was molested by a family member. I was also raped at the age of 17. So I had a lot of traumatic things happen to me. My mother was also an alcoholic. She was a binge alcoholic. And my dad was pretty much in denial and neglected me. Now, don't get this confused. I love my mom now, and we have a great relationship. And same with my dad. Like, he's a beautiful human, and I love both of my parents, and I've forgiven them for what happened. It's not like I hold that over their heads. I've gotten past that. There comes a time when you've got to let, your parents off the hook. It's not their fault anymore. So they're here to teach you a lesson. And once you learn that lesson, it's time to move on. So anyway, regardless, I felt very alone. And I also had a lot of anxiety, obviously. So I started having panic attacks when I was around 9. So interestingly, when I was 8, we went to France. And that was awesome, right? Like, trip of a lifetime. Sorry, guys, I got bit by a mosquito last night practicing yoga outside. But we went to France, and my mom was mushroom hunting, and she fell down a hill. And then we got on a train. We got onto an airplane the next day. We went on a train, and then planes, trains, automobiles. We got on a train, and then we got back on the TWA flight to come home to the United States, and my mom was in the bathroom changing into pajamas, and she found 40 ticks on her back. That's 40, not 14, 40. And I was charged with picking them all off, one by one by one. So I'd pour vodka on her back and I'd pick off these ticks, right? Now, I remember one that I pulled off, and I only pulled its body, which is what you're not supposed to do. Because when you do that, they dig in deeper. Now, I'm pretty positive that's the tick that gave my mom and me Lyme disease. I didn't know that at the time. But I remember that tick. Like, I remember that freaking tick. Anyway, so then I oddly started having panic attacks around that same time. Like, I was like 8 years old, 9 years old, and telling people, like, check my pulse. Am I breathing? Is there oxygen in the room? And I didn't know these were panic attacks. Obviously, I'm 9. And what 9-year-old has panic attacks? Maybe you. But I started having panic attacks. But also, that was also the same time that I started getting molested. So, there's like this really interesting dynamic between the spiritual aspect, psychological aspect, physical aspect of illness. Anyway, I went along in life, but I didn't ever feel like a kid past the age of 9. So then, let's see, I struggled with eating disorders growing up, anorexia and bulimia. Not bulimia, anorexia. I was not bulimic. It's fine if you're bulimic. That was not my jam. I just preferred not to eat. I didn't understand how y'all could make yourself puke. I was like, I only did that when I was drinking. So I'll get into that later. But I was anorexic, ended up in the hospital, and then I didn't get to the root cause of what was going on, and I just cross-addicted. So when I got out, I had started playing with alcohol, like around the age of 11, and I would like eat Oreos and then down it with vodka. Ew. And then when I got out of the hospital for my eating disorder, I went back to that. So I started drinking really heavily and using drugs really heavily, and I just totally spiraled down. I got alcohol poisoning when I was 15, ended up in the hospital, almost died. But I was just like, I was like, fuck life. Like, I had been such a perfectionist up until that point, and I was just like, fuck it all. Like, I don't care. Like, I just want this to be over with. Like, whatever. And so I partied hardy, and, then I went to rehab. So eventually I I got a DUI in December 2000, well, it was 2007. And then I was in jail. No, it was January 2008. No, 2007. Yeah, January 2007 is when I got my DUI. So January 11th, 2007, woke up in Oakland County Jail. Yeah, this one in a yellow Mini Cooper in Oakland, California in jail. Not a mix. But it was quite the experience, you know, like I was in there and they're like, what you doing in here, crack a hole? And I was like, I just want to go back to my dorm. And I was only 19 and I was like really scared. So I got out of jail and I walked back to my dorm room and I was just like, man, like this is not where I'm supposed to be. Like this is not normal. So I went to an AA meeting that first evening, January 11th, and I used to have that book, but in my mold move, which if you are, you know, new to my channel, check out those videos, but I had to get rid of all my books, so I don't have that book anymore. But it was January 11th, 2007. So let's see, where should I go from here? Well, I tried to get sober on my own, and then in March of that year, I chose to pull myself out of school. I called my parents and I was like, I need help. I need to go to rehab. So I checked myself into the Betty Ford Center for a month stint, and I didn't go any longer than that. Looking back, it would have been a good idea, but at the same time, like it wasn't supposed to happen that way, or it would have. Anyway, got out, moved to California, and I was a waitress in a really schmancy restaurant called Il Fornaio in Carmel, California. And a lot of my coworkers, unfortunately, were in the Mexican mafia. So, I tried to stay sober, you know, and I would like go to AA and I'd get up and I'd go to work and, I'd go to the gym and then I would, you know, go to AA meetings and whatever. But pretty soon, you know, there's a saying in AA that's, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you will get a haircut. So eventually my coworkers were like, hey, you know, güera, which is like blonde girl, like, hey, you want some cocaína? You know, like, come over here. And I was like, no, maybe. All right, fine. And then I just hit it. And, you know, I OD'd 3 times between October and December 2008. And then eventually, like, one day I was literally, like, on my way to the gym. And I had just gotten $300 worth of, like, the best cocaine. It's called fish scale. And I'd just gotten some, and I was sitting in my car about to go do cardio. And I just sat back and I was like, this is like the definition of insanity. Like, I'm just about to go do cardio and I'm sniffing 3 lines of cocaine. Really? And I looked at that and I was like, I'm done. And I took that bag and I tossed it out the window. I've never touched cocaine again. And then in April of that same year, I was like, I was kind of like, well, maybe I can do alcohol, right? Like, maybe I could drink sometimes. And I'm a waitress, so I need to know how to wine taste and pair it. And I was making all these excuses. I tried to drink normally. Doesn't happen. And then one night I had had like 5 sips of champagne with some friends, and I like to call it the light switch. Like, you feel this like light switch go on, and then you become this animalistic, like, oh my God, I have to have more. And like, for me, I was like, I have to black out. No. Like, I wasn't just like, oh, let's sip on some wine. I'm like, I need to black out. And I put down the champagne glass and I walked home. I was like, never again. And so I haven't touched alcohol since April of 2009. No, April of 2008. Okay, go back. It's December 2007 that I haven't touched alcohol. April 2008 since I haven't touched, or cocaine in December, alcohol in April. Sorry. Okay, so then I started getting chronic sinus infections. I mean, just brutal. Like, I was popping all the Excedrin that I could, and it was just like constant sinus pain. Looking back, I had severe candida, obviously, but they put me on tons of antibiotics. And I mean like massive rounds of antibiotics. And one particular antibiotic, Levaquin, I went into the ER that night because I had taken some Levaquin and my boyfriend at the time and I were hanging out, and I started getting itchy all over my neck. And I was like, oh my God, I think this is an allergic reaction. And I started itching, and then my hands started itching. and my feet started itching, and we're going to the hospital. So we get to the hospital, and they like jam an IV in my vein, and they put Zantac, and a couple other things, Benadryl, and then one other thing in my veins, and I started vomiting profusely. I had an allergic reaction to this antibiotic, but then they put me on prednisone, that freaking steroid, and it was like for one day, and I was like, I can't touch this, like this is terrible. Regardless, I had obliterated my system. I mean, drugs, alcohol, eating disorder, trauma, stress, you name it. Like I tried to my whole system was just like, and wah, wah, wah. So I started having chronic digestive issues. Like I'll never forget, again, my ex-boyfriend, the one I was dating at the time, we were at California Pizza Kitchen, and we were eating some pasta, and I was like doubled over in pain. I was like, oh, like I was like, oh my God, like it hurts. And from then on, I was like farting all the time. Like, I mean, I farted even when I had no food in my stomach. It was horrendous. And you know, I had chronic digestive issues. My anxiety came back. I mean, it was horrible, y'all. Like it was getting really bad, but then things started to get even worse. So my mom, you know, I was living with her for a little bit, and then, you know, I was like, listen, you know, I was trying to cope with some other things. She was still drinking at the time, and that was really hard on me. And again, I love you so much, Mom. It's just, this is the reality. And it was really hard on me, and so I fell back into my eating disorder. So I stopped eating, you know, because I was just trying to cope. And, you know, at the same time, I was feeling like I was living in a prison, because having a severe eating disorder is like you're living in a jail. Like it's a prison inside your own mind. It's horrible. But you know, it was the way that I was learning, I was coping with everything. So then I moved back to Colorado. I called my dad one night, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Moved back to Colorado, but again, the digestive stuff just like was unrelenting. And so it made me not even want to eat. You know, that was the thing, is I'm like, well, I'm trying to recover from an eating disorder, but I don't want to eat anything because I can't digest anything. And I'm embarrassed to even like function and be out in the world because I'm farting all the time. I mean, seriously, guys, like I would fart all the time, and it was so embarrassing. And I didn't even want to eat. I was like, I don't want any food in my stomach, you know? And then I moved into an apartment that everything leaked. Okay. I mean, like my air conditioner leaked, my dishwasher leaked, my washing machine leaked, my sink leaked. I mean, literally everything leaked. And then it culminated in December 2012, during one of like the hardest periods of my life. My mom went to rehab. One of my closest friends died of breast cancer. And I came home one day, and it's actually kind of funny looking back. I had called my dad, and I was like, you know, like, and I had just taken this great yoga class from one of my favorite yoga teachers, Sarah Crow. Love you. And I was like, you know, I'm starting to feel like normal again, and I'm feeling good. And my dad's like, that's great. I'll come over for dinner. I'm like, cool. So I pull up to my apartment complex, and I'm like looking out across the parking lot, and like, I just about vomit, right? I pull up, and right off of my patio is Niagara Falls. Like Niagara Falls is coming out of my apartment, and I'm like, good. Like it's 4 days before Christmas in Colorado. It's freezing. It's a Saturday. And now what? Like I've just been through the ringer. Now what, universe, really? And I pulled up, and my hot water heater had exploded. And it's like just shooting like water off of my patio, and I'm just like, oh my God. So it flooded, obviously, my office and my apartment. Had to have those big blowing blue fans. With anybody who's ever been through a flood, it's like they're the loudest thing ever. It's a very disconcerting sound. Anyway, it you know, they didn't really remediate anything. We just dried the carpet. Looking back, I'm like, like that was Mold City. Anyway, and then I moved into another apartment. Other story, I had a stalker, and he started working at my apartment complex. So I was like, no, I'm moving. But then I moved into my old apartment, and that place was hell. Not only was there a mold problem, which I found out later, but they had never tested my furnace in my apartment. They had never changed it. They had never cleaned it. And it was from 1974. So I later found out that I was getting low-level carbon monoxide poisoning for the whole 3 years that I lived there. Thanks. Anyway, I, started getting sicker and sicker. And then my symptoms got weirder and weirder. Like, I was having vision problems. Like, I couldn't see very well. And it would feel like I had no oxygen. Like, I was, like, never having oxygen. I would be super anxious. Like, I couldn't even, like I said, like, I would literally just be in a ball on the floor. I couldn't function. I was so fatigued. Wow. I started not caring about anything. It was a living nightmare. And then it finally culminated one night when I was in my bathroom and I was like so distraught. And I looked at my gun. I'm a responsible gun owner. And I was like, I'm gonna blow my head off, like, tonight. Like, sorry, it's just, like, really hard for me to think back to that night because I felt so alone. And, no one understood what I was going through. And people thought that I was crazy. And people thought that I was just making this stuff up. I didn't have anybody to talk to. Like, people thought that I was just a hypochondriac and that I just needed to get over it. And I was like, guys, like, something's legitimately wrong. Like, help me. And no one was able to help me. But then I had this vision in my head of my cat finding me with my head blown off, like, literally this graphic. And I had a vision of him finding me, like, and walking around in my blood and being so confused about why mommy was dead. And I was like, I can't do that to my baby boy. I mean, if you guys are, regular visitors here, my cat likes to make regular visits in my videos and he's my baby. But, I was like, I can't do that to him. And that night I was like, this stops now. And I'm going to I don't care how I'm going to do this. I don't care how much money it takes. I don't care. I'm going to get better. And then that night and the next day I was like, I'm getting better and I don't care how it happens. And I went on a journey and I found all these different like fringe treatments that I've been, that I use regularly and that I teach because they work, because traditional medicine did not help me at all. And so I just kept following my intuition and I was a bulldog. Like I would like research everything and I would try everything on myself and look it up and talk to people at companies. And then I stumbled across integrative medicine and I was like, oh my God, like this is exactly what I want to learn. I didn't even know there was a field like this. And then I found the program at George Washington and I was like, oh, like I've got to go here. And so I, wrote this kick-ass essay and I got accepted. And just so happens that the leading physician who runs the program is an expert in environmental medicine. Like so divinely, beautifully guided. Like angels came floating down, and it was like, so I started learning about this thing called CIRS, which is chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And I was like, I'll never forget. I was doing food prep and I was listening to some lectures in my kitchen one day. And my professor was describing CIRS. And he's like, these people are panicked. They have to get out of their environment. And I dropped to my knees and I started bawling. Because I was like, he is describing my life. Somebody understands me. And I emailed him and I was like, I've got this CIRS thing. And he was like, all right, this is what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. And it was just like, oh my God. And then like, again, like cherubs started flying through my kitchen. No, I'm just kidding. But that's how it felt. And from there on out, I was like, you know what? Like, and I was going through intense detoxification protocols, like with lots of coffee enemas and vitamin C flushes. And again, I've got videos about this on my channel, but I started seeing the light and getting better. But then I realized, I was like, oh, this apartment is killing me. And so I had it tested, and I found a mold guy, and he's like, yep, you've got Stachybotrys, which is like the toxic black mold, like the badass bears. And I also have something called the HLA-DR/SNP, little snip in your genetics, which makes it more difficult for me to clear mold and Lyme from my system. It's not like when I first heard that, I was like, shit, and like some people think it's like a death sentence. If you've ever heard of the term epigenetics, it is not. It just makes it so that like I have to live in a super clean environment, and there's certain precautions I have to take. I don't care. I don't want to feel like I ever like that, But I started getting this like, I have to move. Like, I've got to move. So I started searching for the best place that I could. And it was hellacious in that way, because I was like, I need to get out, but I can't get out yet, and I don't know where I'm going. And oh my God, and then all these questions started going through my head, like, oh, I'm going to have to get rid of a lot of stuff, aren't I? Oh my God, this is going to cost a lot of money. Oh my God, every pencil. I mean, when you start thinking about everything you have to get rid of, it's overwhelming. And this started happening like January or February. That's when the carbon monoxide BS started happening. I found out that I was getting poisoned by carbon monoxide every day. Doesn't help the oxygen issue. Thanks, landlords. Anyway, sorry, I have a little bit of resentment toward them. But I'm working through it. Then the move came, and I literally lost like tons of hair. Like my hairstylist was like, you can, like, it's like tree rings in your hair. You can see like that. He's like, about 7 months ago, you lost a ton of hair. And I was like, yeah, that's when I was moving. It's starting to grow back thicker, which is awesome. And I'm really excited. I basically just decided, to surrender to the process. That's one of my favorite sayings, is surrender to the process, because I knew I couldn't control it, and I knew that it was going to be a really tough thing, but I also knew that everything was serving a purpose, because the one thing, guys, that got me through all this was that I knew that this was going to become my purpose. And I knew one day I was going to be standing here in front of this YouTube camera and telling you a message of hope. That is the only thing that got me through. And now I'm standing here bringing you this message of hope. Because once I moved, like, everything has gotten better. I mean, and I was getting better, for the subsequent months until I moved. But it just like, boom. Like, once I got out of the environment, it was like, okay, like, this is the real deal. And since then, I've just been on like this fast track to getting better and better and better and better and better. And I'm still learning, and I'm always going to be learning, and I'm always going to be trying out things on myself. And so that's another thing that you can trust, whether or not you decide to work with me personally or from these videos, is like, I do rigorous research around these things. I am very type A, and I want to give you the best information possible. And a lot of these things, all of these things that I talk about, I have tried out myself. So I can give you personal experience. And I can tell you, I'm a messenger of wellness, and I'm here to tell you that there is hope. That no matter what trauma you've been through, no matter what sickness you have, no matter what symptoms you're suffering from currently, you can change it. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. There were so many times when I felt like I couldn't. And I could. And I did. And I'm still doing it. So this is my story, and I hope that it inspires some of you out there. I hope you found this helpful. And just know that you are not alone. If you feel totally alone, for one, you have yourself. That's one thing that I learned, is that I've got myself. I can trust myself now so deeply. You can too. But I'm also here for you. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. I know this is a little bit long, but I just wanted to put it out there. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. Let's keep the comments chill. I mean, again, you can like disagree with me, but especially like personal stories, I think it's ridiculous when somebody's like rude on somebody's personal story. Like, I'll delete you because I want this whole channel to be healing. And if you want to work one-on-one with me, reach out. We can also do like a 15-minute free phone call. I always provide that. And then if you just need to talk to somebody for 15 minutes, please take advantage of that. But if you're really ready to like get better and feel better in any way, it doesn't have to just be health. It can be mental or spiritual or whatever. Email me with the subject line, I'm ready. And I'll know, and we'll get going. So thank you so much. Bye. So much love to you. When you feel like you can't, learn that you can.